At the far end of the universe, there is a planet ruled by a being of utter evil. And there is only one man who dares challenge him. They are locked in a battle to the death. A battle that will take them across the heavens.
Stop him!
A battle that will finally be fought.
I want them hunted down and brought to me!
Across the face
Police! Nobody move!
of Earth.
I think I'm gonna need some backup.
Can you show us the way?
Of course.
No!
Somebody help me!
Julie!
From a distant galaxy, they have come to Earth. Dolph Lundgren as He-Man. Frank Langella as Skeletor. Only they have the powers to be masters of the universe. Live the adventure.
Masters of the Universe made its journey to the silver screen in the USA in August of 1987, with the UK release the following December. The film had a trouble production, produced by the struggling studio Cannon Films. The film was based on the popular Mattel toy and cartoon series He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. The film came quite late in the life of the original He-Man craze, and was a last-ditch attempt to rejuvenate the property, as toy sales had started to fall off by this point. The film was also an attempt by Cannon to secure their place in the market, as their business model was starting to become an unsustainable entity at this point in time. Without diving too deep into the Cannon film story, their business model that had always worked to a degree of success was to fund the production of their films with the pre-sales and distribution rights of future projects that they hadn't yet started, usually just based on a premise or a mock poster. Both companies had a level of desperation with regards to the film being a success. Mattel had other properties it was involved with that would keep the company afloat. However, Cannon pretty much put everything they could into this picture, confident that it would be a smash hit, dubbing it the Star Wars of the 80s. Both a critical and commercial failure, the film was made with a production budget of $22 million and only managed to return 4.8 in its opening weekend in the US, with a continuing disappointing worldwide gross of only $17 million. The film opens with scenes taking place on He-Man's home planet of Eternia, where the evil Skeletor has just been victorious in his quest to overpower the Eternian army and overtake Castle Grayskull. We soon learn that the secret to his victory was the product of a new invention from Eternian inventor Gwildor, who had invented a gadget that enabled a gateway to be created to any location.
I call it the Cosmic Key.
The Cosmic Key was confiscated by Skeletor's right-hand evil limb, enabling Skeletor and his forces to easily gain their way into Castle Grayskull and take the sorceress as his prisoner. Little did they know that Gwildor had actually made 2 of these Cosmic Keys, enabling He-Man and his friends to re-enter Castle Grayskull in a vain attempt to free the sorceress. Upon their discovery, they are overpowered and have to use the key to escape quickly, unknowingly transporting themselves to an alien universe, planet Earth. Upon arriving on Earth, they become separated from the key, which is found by a musician, thinking it's a Japanese synthesizer. Skeletor manages to track their location when the key is used, and sends a bunch of henchmen to Earth to retrieve the key. In the meantime, He-Man and his friends also locate the key and become friends with the Earthlings that have found it. The henchmen fail to secure the key, returning to Eternia to report their failure to Skeletor, who decides to pay a visit to Earth himself with his army. This attempt is successful, and also results in the capture of his greatest foe, He-Man. With He-Man and the key now back in Eternia, the Earthlings and He-Man's comrades have to find a way to get back home to face Skeletor before he can complete his quest for unlimited power. The film was highly criticised for its cheapening of the He-Man mythology, such as setting the bulk of it on Earth, and its omission of popular characters from the cartoon series, such as Battle Cat and Orko. The budget simply didn't allow for these characters, plus the Earth setting also helped to keep costs down.
Well? Ooh.
Eternia scenes were mainly filmed inside of Castle Grayskull, which was an impressive set, featuring a majestic throne room in which most of the finale takes place. The film stars Dolph Lundgren as He-Man in his first role since starring alongside Sylvester Stallone as the Russian boxer Ivan Drago in Rocky IV.
I must break you.
Lundgren went on to become a bit of a straight-to-video action star throughout the remainder of the 80s. He saw mainstream success in a few films in the early 90s, such as Universal Soldier and Showdown in Little Tokyo, but returned to the straight-to-video stuff soon after. Following his casting in The Expendables, he's risen in popularity in recent years, appearing in Creed 2 and the DC Comics adaptation of Aquaman. Classical actor Frank Langella starred as the evil Skeletor. He said in interviews that he took the role as his young children were fans of He-Man. His performance in this film is excellent, taking on the character with a great screen presence. If this film had been a success, I'm sure he would have been considered one of the greatest villains of the 80s. Evil Lynn was played by actress Meg Foster. She was cast for both her acting experience plus her strikingly blue eyes. Meg was known mainly for her work in television. She also appeared in a few sci-fi horror movies after Masters of the Universe, such as John Carpenter's They Live and Leviathan, before returning to TV for the remainder of her career. She recently appeared in a lead role in the horror sequel Jeepers Creepers 3. Courtney Cox stars as Earthling Julie in her first big screen role. She'd previously appeared in TV shows such as Murder, She Wrote, and also appeared in Bruce Springsteen's music video for the song Dancing in the Dark. Courtney went on to become a megastar following her role as Monica Geller in the TV sitcom Friends, and then in the Scream films, where she met her husband David Arquette. Coincidentally, actress Christina Pickles, who plays the Sorceress, also played Courtney Cox's mother in Friends. Chelsea Field plays the strong female lead Teela. Prior to this film, she had minor roles, such as the air hostess in Commando.
And do me a favor, don't disturb my friend, he's dead tired.
Chelsea starred in some other films since Masters of the Universe, including playing the role of Bruce Willis's estranged wife in The Last Boy Scout. She now mainly works in TV. Police Detective Lubick is played by James Tolkien, familiar to many from his roles in Back to the Future and Top Gun. James would go on to reprise his role in the Back to the Future sequels in the late 80s, as well as a small role in Dick Tracy, before predominantly working in television until the end of his career. Robert Duncan McNeil starred alongside Courtney Cox as her musician boyfriend Kevin. Robert went on to star in the successful TV series Star Trek Voyager, as well as directing and producing such shows as Chuck. The film was directed by Gary Goddard, who had a previous background in live theatre. Gary went on to produce and direct many of the big theme park movie rides, such as T2 3D and Jurassic Park The Ride at Universal Studios. Boss Films provided the special effects, which for a film of this budget were very impressive for their time. The film also features some very impressive matte paintings for the external shots of Castle Grayskull. This film often gets criticised, but none of the effects or makeup work appear to be shoddy. There's an obvious design inspiration of the Star Wars films, and also other comic sci-fi wardrobe, such as Conan the Barbarian. Skeletor's Stormtrooper-styled foot soldiers looked like nondescript Darth Vaders. This was something that was done purposely to tone down the violence, as violence against robots was deemed more acceptable by Mattel, who didn't want to tarnish their toy line. Mattel placed various limits on what the filmmakers could do with their characters, most of which ended up being removed as the filmmakers felt they were too constrictive for a film of this nature. Mattel also ran a competition with the winner receiving an on-screen part in the film, directed Gary Goddard, and used him to hold Skeletor's cane, to be taken from him on Skeletor's final grand entrance into Grayskull. He's credited as Pig Boy. Towards the end of the production, the money had all been spent. With no further funds available and financiers threatening to put a halt to production, director Gary Goddard funded the remainder of the film himself. This is the reason that the final battle takes place in a darkened room, with just He-Man and Skeletor in basic costume. Gary quickly choreographed a sword fight sequence to end the film. This is a shame, but strangely fits well. Bill Conti composed the score for the movie. Bill had an impressive history of great film scores, but had always wanted to do a big sci-fi score. This was his opportunity to do so, and he did an awesome job. The score is one of the best aspects of the film, with recognisable character themes and epic battle pieces. At the Cannes Film Festival the following year, Canon owner Menahem Golan declared that they were going into production of 2 sequels. The film would see He-Man returning to Earth to save it after Skeletor had fled there and destroyed most of it, turning it into a post-apocalyptic landscape. Dolph Lundgren wasn't interested, Mattel were not interested either. After deciding not to go ahead with the sequel, the film was turned into the sci-fi action movie Cyborg, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, which coincidentally had similar troubles throughout production. Cannon Films shortly went under after Cyborg. Their business model had finally failed them. Despite its failings, Masters of the Universe has become a cult classic with a huge fan base. Despite this, Warner Brothers, who hold the distribution rights, seem reluctant to spend any time or money putting out a decent home release. The film has seen DVD and Blu-ray releases with minimal effort. To this date, there is only a stereo track available for this movie, with it never having received a 5.1 remix or a special anniversary edition, such as other movies of the time have. Many die-hard He-Man fans hate this movie and everything it represents. However, there remains a cult following with many. The film is definitely a product of its time. However, it holds a special place in the hearts of 80s kids. If you want a unique blend of sci-fi, action, and a Wizard of Oz style subplot under an epic score, give this one another watch, with the lights down and the volume up. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on Retro Reels.
Here, Doctor, sit.
Great Scott!